Okay, yep. So my name is Jared Sorensen. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's an honor to have Will Harris with us. I am framing this such that whenever you meet something that is just has a lot of fierce opposition, it's a really good thing. And we've definitely faced some pretty fierce opposition to get everybody on the right Zoom link at the right time. And so we look forward to learning from Will Harris here today. We appreciate your time and appreciate everybody being here with us. Um, so our internet is a little bit sketchy here today. I have made Will co-host. If I go, well, actually, I did that just now. So if I go dark on you, we're going to go seek a better spot to find internet. I'm just hotspotting off my phone here. The topic for today, well, actually, let's just have a prayer like we normally do. Wendell, I haven't ever asked you to pray, but I know you're a praying man. Would you be so kind as to give us a prayer to start this thing off and even pray for the technology that it'll be adequate?
Sure. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to be together today. We pray that this will be a profitable time for all of us. Help us to open our minds to learn, and we pray that the technology will work. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Wendell. I appreciate that. Um, and so we're going to jump in. What we're going to talk about today, regeneration is a big buzzword in agriculture today. We are working to make sure that that word does not get diluted in meaning. But I would say Will Harris has been regenerative before regenerative was even attached to the word agriculture. What we want to talk today with Will about is how he has built not only regenerative systems on the farm and ranch that he owns, but a regenerative business and a regenerative community. Because as I see and study what he's done, he's had an impact upon the lives of not only those who work with him, but his community at large. And so, Will, that's where we'd like to go today. How does that sound to you?
Well, I hope our business here is as regenerative as you think it is. It's as regenerative as I know how to make it. And time will test it and we'll see what happens. Uh, I changed I am the fourth generation of my family to own this farm. My two daughters in their 30s are the fifth, and they've got babies, five babies who are the sixth, will be the sixth. And I took over the farm after I graduated from the University of Georgia in 1976. And I ran it very industrially as a monocultural cattle operation, as my dad had run it since World War II. And the farm was profitable. We certainly were not rich people, but I paid taxes every single year, and the farm was paid for. It had been paid for by my dad, granddad, great granddad. And I ran the farm very industrially as a monocultural cattle operation for about 20 years. In the mid 90s, I started to be less enchanted with that way of managing the herd and the land. So I started changing it pretty abruptly without any real plan of where I was going. And it wound up being what we do today. And what we do today is remarkably similar to what my great grandfather and grandfather did 100+ years ago.
So as you kind of started down this journey, what was the catalyst for change for you? Was it profitability? Was it land degradation? Was it?
Yeah, I was just really happy as a young man running a monocultural cattle operation, and as I said, it made money every year. We were not rich people, but our farm was paid for. It had a little money, lived comfortably. The excesses of that system kind of suddenly became painfully apparent to me. and I just wanted to move away from them. To be transparent, I was probably an abuser, of the technological tools. If the label rate said put a pint to the acre, I might have put a quart. If it said give them 2 cc's per 100 pounds, I might have given 3 cc's per 100 pounds. But that's the way I ran the farm. That's the way my dad had run the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And the farm was we made a little money every year, but I just became less and less. I guess I became increasingly aware of the unintended consequences of using those industrial tools. So I started moving away from them, and I moved away from them pretty quickly, pretty abruptly. And I had to find a different way of making a living. And when we stumbled for a while there, but ultimately, the timing was very, very fortunate. This was the mid-90s. By the time I had the production model worked out, it was the early 2000s, and people were beginning to talk about grass-fed beef, which I had never heard of till probably 2000, maybe the late 90s. And I actually sold Whole Foods Market and Publix the first beef that they marketed as American grass-fed beef. And the timing was very, very fortunate for me. And they bought all I could produce at a level that allowed us to make money. Or again, we're talking about a farm here. We're not rich folks' money, but we were profitable. And it actually caused me a production problem with processing. I was using small outside processors, and I built a USDA inspected red meat slaughter plant, and then later built a USDA inspected poultry slaughter plant on the farm.
Yeah, and are those still operational today?
Yes. We're reinvesting in the poultry plant. The pasture poultry business has not been as good as I believed it would be, and I overbuilt the plant. But it's okay because I've outgrown my red meat plant. Mm-hmm. So we're right now we're in the process of remodeling the plant so that we'll be able to slaughter pigs, sheep, and goats in it as well as poultry. Mm-hmm. We'll at least downsize our poultry operation. I may be out of the poultry business. I don't know. It just depends on what that plant will do when I get through with the renovations.
Mm-hmm. What has that done for you to be able to integrate vertically versus outsourcing the processing?
Well, I couldn't get it done outsourcing the processing, and that's where I started out. But I was using very small processors, great people, wonderful people, but they only had a very limited amount of capacity they could let me have. I'd call them and say, I need to process 10 head next week. And they say, well, we can do 6. I said, I need 10. They said, I'm sorry, we can't do but 6. And I couldn't make a profit operating at those levels. So I had to build a plant so I could maximize my processing capacity, my production capacity.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is that as profitable? I know the economy of scale of sending them to bigger processing plants generally cheapens it up, but how have you found that? Do you trickle down the cost to the consumer? I'm sure, but
there's no way you can compete with the cost of a huge processing plant. It probably cost us, I really don't know, $500 or something to process an animal in a big industrial Tyson, Cargill, JBS kind of plant can do it for really the drop, the value of the drop will pay for the processing.
Yeah. I just heard here in the West talking to a fellow grass-fed beef producer, and it's $800 to $1,000 per head now. for USDA and custom exempt aren't much behind that. And so that's tough when margins are already thin. So as you started down this journey to grass fed, what were some of the other changes that were made both in the marketing and on ground, and how those changes affected the business overall?
Well, as a cattle producer, my dad and me for the first 20 years, we operated just a very small part of the segment. We just raised calves to, post weaning, maybe 90 days past weaning. And I moved from just that to being my own tiny little production chain. We raised them, slaughtered them, and marketed the beef. And it was just a lot more complexity to it. I went from 4 employees to today 170 employees. We didn't do that all at one time, but over the last 20 years, we've gone from 4 to 170. And we're a vertically integrated little company. It's certainly tiny compared to the big meat companies, but it's completely, almost entirely vertically integrated.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. 170 employees. Are they, how many of those work directly within the production system, and how many work outside in the marketing, processing, fulfillment, delivery?
Well, there's a lot of crossover, but in the processing plant, there's probably 50 employees. In the production side, out in the field raising animals, is probably 25 or 30. Mm-hmm. We got a store and a restaurant, and we got cabins for lodging. We try not to hire much done. I've got a 2-person mechanic crew, a 2-person carpentry crew, a 2-person for a 3-person groundskeeping crew, and a 2-person fencing crew. So we hire very little done outside of the things we do for ourselves with employees.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty neat. So what would you say is the core to your culture to be able to find people that are willing to work when that's maybe one of the more challenging aspects in all industry right now? Not only willing, but capable. And
well, we expect to train people. We don't expect them to come in here trained, ready to rock and roll. But hiring people really has not been that much of a problem. Probably in the processing plant is the biggest problem we have. That's just not the kind of work that everybody wants to do. But we've got more. As I said, we're the largest employer in the county, and we have plenty of employee opportunities. It's a lot of them are people that don't intend to work here as a career. They're young people that want to come here and learn, and we welcome that. When I was growing up and as a young man, farms typically, a young farmer hired 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 young farm hands, and they worked together till they were old men together, and hopefully another generation would take over. Maybe not. And that's the way I started out, but it's not worked out that way. Now we welcome these young people that come here to go work a year or two, and it's just fine. I actually enjoy that. They bring new ideas, and it's been a good experience.
That's good. So kind of switching to the community, how has your business, if you say you're the single largest employer in the county, how has it affected your neighbors, your community at large, Will?
Well, let's put us at odds with some neighbors. We've increased the size of the farm, and we bid against neighbors when land comes up for sale or lease, and that's not always comfortable or didn't always generate warmth and good feelings. But as far as the town goes, I think we've bought every house or lot or storefront except one this been sold in this town in the last 15 years. We certainly don't own nearly all of it. We own more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And when we buy it, we fix it. I don't own a house I wouldn't live in. We sometimes I spend more fixing them than I paid for the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very pleased with what we've done with the town. I can't say I speak for all my neighbors, but speaking for myself, I think it's been an improvement. You ought to come see us. I'd like to show you what we do. All y'all.
Yeah, that's good. What would that look like to come and visit? Do you guys have like official tours, or I know you sometimes you host classes on site and things. What would be?
Yeah, we got a nonprofit that I formed about 2 or 3 years ago called CFAR. It stands for Center for Agricultural Resilience.
Mm-hmm.
We put on training sessions, and as a nonprofit, I was doing a lot of training myself, and we were losing money doing it, and I just couldn't afford it anymore. So we formed a nonprofit, and people make donations to it, and we train people to farm the way we farm. You can look on the website, whiteoakpastures.com. It's got a schedule of what we're going to have, when we're going to have it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. In your, let's see, the documentary, is it called 10,000 Beating Hearts?
I think it's 100,000 beating hearts.
100,000 Beating Hearts. I was off
Yeah.
by a multiplier there. Okay.
Factor
Awesome.
10.
Tell us a little bit about that and the story behind that. And is it representative as the farm?
Well, there's a nonprofit called the Southern Foodways Alliance that's been very good to us. They followed our progress, and they done a couple of documentaries on it, but 15-minute documentaries, and that's one of them, 100,000 Beating Hearts. It's called Could. We rewrote a book. I guess I wrote a book that was released a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's called A Bold Return to Giving a Damn. It's Viking Random House, and I graduated from the University of Georgia in 1976 with a degree in animal science. So writing is not something I thought I would. I never did do much reading, certainly didn't do much writing, but Viking Random House hired a young lady to write the book. She was charming, same age as my daughter, one of my daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a real good job writing the book. It took a year, and she came down here and spent a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who was the book's target audience? Who would you say would benefit most from reading that, Will?
People have an interest in changing agriculture and moving from the industrial model to a model more focused on the environment and animal welfare and local rural communities.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty much anybody that's going to be on this call, anybody that's in our contact list or listens to our podcast. I don't own the book yet, but I am going to order it today. And education is a big part of what we do. So just we've kind of opened it up here. I'm monitoring the chat. If people have questions, I'll ask that for them. We get the question a lot, Will, how does somebody get started? You're young, they've watched Alan Savory. You're like, I want to do that. They might not even know what that is, but they've had a feel. And I would say it's even a calling. It's in their heart. It's written upon their heart. God's given them to do this. How would you suggest they get started?
I would say that a land grant university education is not the best way to start. Yeah, that's how I started, and I don't recommend that as a path. That's not. I put all three of my daughters through college, and two of them wound up working back here with me. But I don't think they're using what they learned in college so much. Uh, I would say that I would find a farm in the ecosystem that I wanted to be in. That was farming the way I wanted to. I liked what I saw. For us, that's animal welfare, regenerative land management, and rural community development. That's three things we think we're good at. And but if I think if you're in the Pacific Northwest, Bluffton, Georgia is not the best place to come. I think that it is ecosystem intensive. I think that being well, taking your training in the ecosystems you're going to try to be that you intend to work in is probably smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the barrier to entry from the land side? I know that that's one of the bigger challenges, and one of the things that we hope that we can bridge that gap between those that are wanting to retire and those that are wanting to step in. But how does a young person that has nothing more than a dream get a hold of the land to do what they want to do?
Well, somebody's going to have to help you. I mean, so that's just, I may be the best cook in the world. That doesn't mean I can open a huge 5-star restaurant in Times Square. I mean, that's not the way that works. It requires an investment from somebody's got to be willing to take the risk and make the investment. I would, and I don't know. I've never done it. I was blessed. I inherited a farm, so I didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen work well is young people who have the desire and nothing else, and maybe an old couple, older farmers that have a farm and no one to take it over, form some kind of relationship. I've seen that work well. But I was fortunate enough to inherit a farm, so I'm not the guy to give you advice on that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough, and I believe there is a way if you're creative.
I'll tell you one that you might look at now that I'm thinking about it. Our latest project is about 2,000 acres of solar voltaic arrays that we're grazing. We don't own the land. I do own the sheep, but I don't own the land. The solar company does.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually paying us to keep the vegetation down. Now we have to mow a couple of times a year because the vegetation quality is not good enough yet for the sheep to eat everything that's out there. But my hope is that we'll reach a point that we're controlling it nearly 100% through grazing, and that would be again, if you don't have anything, you can't go in business. If you don't have anything, you can't go in the automobile business or the food business or the textile business or the farming business. But if you've got the desire and you can work out a relationship with somebody that has the asset, then you got the makings of a potential deal.
Yeah, that's good way to be creative and think about it. Who have been your mentors along the path in your journey to getting you to where you're at right now?
I'm sorry.
Who have been your mentors or people that you've looked up to that have helped you on your journey, Will?
Well, certainly my dad, granddad, great granddad, they're the ones that put the farm together and worked it out, paid for it. And it wouldn't have been possible without them. I've learned a lot from Alan Savory Institute. I don't know if are you familiar with that?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure probably everybody on the call is, and Alan Savory's TED Talk. But yeah, actually, our company's actually affiliated with the Savory Institute.
And so there have been others, but now I was so early getting into it. There was a lot more figuring it out for myself than you would have to do today. We've been doing this for 25 or so years, and there were other people doing it in the country 25 years ago, but I didn't know them, and we didn't have computer connectivity to each other. So it was, I thought I was the only one on the planet doing it, but I was not. I just didn't have connections with those other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What would you say differentiates you from other grass-fed beef producers, other people that are maybe have a regenerative label? Is there anything that sets you apart, Will?
Well, I just don't know how to answer that question. I mean, I don't know who we're talking about and how they're doing it, and probably wouldn't. I don't compare myself to other grass-fed beef producers. We try to be very, very transparent and let people see what we do. I told you we built accommodations for people to come see us, and we urge people to come see us and to see if you like what we do. And
Yeah.
generally, we can make a custom out of people that come to see us. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
say this. We sell about $25 million worth of product, and we ship beef to 40, or product, not just beef. We ship product to 48 states.
Mm-hmm.
Really don't want to. I really want to be far, far more local than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do, because I got to sell $25 million worth of product to make my business work. And if I have to sell it somewhere, in the Pacific Northwest or the Southwest or New England, I will. That's not my goal. I want to feed people here, and I want y'all to feed people near where you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. That's the ultimate form of food security, right?
I think so.
Being independent. And we've got a couple questions in the chat here we'll jump into, but I've been asked this question, and I know it's kind of the question gets thrown around there a lot. Can regenerative agriculture feed the world? What's your thoughts on that, Will?
I think the earth has a limited carrying capacity, no matter how you farm it. You can't feed more and more and more people in perpetuity. Just raise more products. That's not the way that works. There's a carrying capacity. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that the carrying capacity may not be greater the way I do it than is through industrial commodity farming. I don't know. You can make more product per acre with industrial commodity farming using GMOs and pesticides and whatever else.
Fertilizers.
Chemical fertilizer.
Yep.
But there are unintended consequences to those things, and it's going to manifest itself somewhere. So if the limiting factor is how many acres of land you got, industrial farming will beat me. Mm-hmm. If it's the unintended consequences that spin off, I might beat them in terms of how many people I can feed, or not just me. This kind of farming can feed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On a profitability standpoint, who do you think wins?
The industrial. Because I think we pay a higher percentage of our costs. If industrial farming is what killed the big zone down here in the Gulf of Mexico, they didn't pay for that.
Yeah.
If there's atrazine in the polar ice caps, they didn't pay for that. So there's more profit in the annual turnover in industrial farming than there is in what I do. But there's also more unintended consequences.
Yeah, even if you remove the direct subsidies to industrial farming, would you think they could still afford to run huge feedlots, import fertilizers, do the things that they do?
No. I mean, I don't think that. But I also think that those kinds of subsidies are pretty hardwired in, as long as we've got the lobbyist exercise as much control as they exercise.
So what do you think will cause a tipping point, or will there be one?
I don't know. I think about it a lot. And I used to think that that as more and more people thought this was a good idea and went this way, and more people would there would be a tipping point. I don't know what day, but I thought there would be. But I'm just not sure how it's going to work anymore. There are so many poor people that can't afford to pay more for food, and I don't mean that critically. I mean that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And my food costs more of direct cost. I'm not talking about killing the fish in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
So, I just don't know how this is going to wind up. I used to think that I was an early innovator, and we were ahead of most folks in changing the way food production was going to be done. I don't know that I think that anymore. I may just be a niche producer. And if I am, that's not what I wanted, but it's okay. I mean, we'll probably be able to do it for another generation or two or more, and who knows what'll happen in that amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that your system is duplicatable? I mean, is it something that somebody could do in a different geographic area with success?
I think it's highly replicatable. Yeah, I do. I don't think it's highly scalable. I think I'm about big as I need to be, maybe a little bigger than I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But so I don't think I don't think it's highly scalable. I do think it's highly replicatable.
Mm-hmm. And somebody asked, having been through all that you've been through with the vertical integrations, would you do it again? Integrating vertically, would you, hindsight, is that something you would do again, or what would you do differently?
I would do it again. Not that the financial result has been that astounding, but it caused two of my daughters to choose to come back. And in all likelihood, they would not have chosen to come back if I continued to be very industrial.
Mm-hmm. And provided employment for a lot of other people as well along the way too.
Yeah, I think that we're doing. I think that right now we're doing the same thing to rural that we did to wilderness 75 years ago. When I was a kid, I was born in 1954. When I was a kid, I used to dream about going to Africa or the Amazon or the Yukon to the wilderness. And, there's not any wilderness anymore. Not really. Maybe some private holding somewhere, but, in the last 75 years, we have civilized the wilderness. It's just not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And 75 years from now, there may not be a rural.
Meaning the urban sprawl will reach and encompass that rural, or will the rural die off and move to the city?
Well, I can't tell you how it's going to happen. I think that it may just be just impoverishment. I mean, it's just if I don't know how it is where you are, but I've traveled a good bit. And everywhere I go in rural America, I see economic decay. I see cities that are impoverished, and I don't think that's going to get better. Not if it's depending upon agriculture. If it's tourism or mining or some other extraordinary income, maybe. But I think that I see, I'm nearly 70, and I've seen in my life, I've seen rural America's just gotten poorer and poorer and poorer. And I don't see that turning around.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's in the West here. I think we have other industries that support these rural communities, probably more where you're at, and in the Midwest, they feel it more, where it is just agricultural dependent. And so with the consolidation to larger corporate farms and ranches, that is one of the unintended consequences of that system, right? As the communities tend to die out. Yeah, again, and I mean, can that be reversed? Can we go back to?
I'm sitting right in the middle of Bluffton, Georgia, right now. Bluffton, Georgia happens to be sitting right in the middle of my farm.
Mhm.
I'm in the old courthouse, literally one room courthouse. It's my office now, and this town has never had a railroad, never had a mill or a factory, purely agrarian town. And we reached the point that just about everybody in this town that works for White Oak Pastures. Not quite, but just about everybody that lives here that works for White Oak Pastures.
Huh.
And that's not, I'm not bragging, I'm talking about the economic decay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess you could only imagine what the community would be like if it didn't have your company to kind of be the backbone of it.
Well, hell, all it had is a post office. It was open a couple hours a day, period.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's one of the reasons, Will, why we wanted to get you on as a host, because that is something unique about White Oak Pastures and about Will Harris, is not only that you've been able to raise quality products and feed people good food, but you've been able to revitalize a community. And it might be wishful thinking, it might be a dream, but that's my hope, is that there could be more of this throughout the nation.
Well, and I guess my message to you is that I'm not saying that what we have done here is all that wonderful, but it is pretty good. And it was done by a C student that did have a paid for farm, but it wasn't a right scholar with a trust fund, and it can be done. It can be replicated over and over and over.
Yeah. So maybe we'll jump into some of these questions here that we have. A couple on the ecological side. Will, do you have somebody that's specifically on staff that does any of your ecological monitoring, that manages the soil fertility for your operation?
We do have we're a savory hub, and we've got ecological EOV, ecological outcome verification, about 12, 15 locations on the farm that one of our young ladies monitors. There's a procedure to that. She went and got trained to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We participate in that program.
Yeah, that's good. That's something we've done on our ranch as well. We're about 5 years into it. I think this year we'll do our second long-term monitoring sites. And have you seen any indications, any improvements as you've been measuring and monitoring?
Absolutely. So this what I'm about to tell you did not just come from savory, although it supported it, but the organic model on this farm has gone from 0.5%, 0.5%, 0.5% to 5%, 10x increase in organic model.
Cool.
And organic model, 1% organic model will absorb about a 1-inch rainfall. That's 27,000 gallons per acre.
Mm-hmm.
So going from a half an inch absorption to 5-inch absorption is incredible. We get about 70 inches of rain a year here, but some of it comes fast and hard and runs off.
Did you say 70 inches?
I think it is. I'm not sure. I need to go back and look on that. But it's 50 or 60.
Uh-huh.
We get plenty of water. It's just that we don't hold it very well.
Okay. And is that, I mean, I guess that probably is the opposite of what we have. You guys have leaching. We're in a very brittle environment here in the West, and our listeners are anywhere on that spectrum from brittle to non-brittle, but I imagine there's unique challenges with that tremendous rainfall.
I'm about 70 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, and we do get a lot of rain. But we again 5% organic model is really high here, and I suspect that y'all's soil in the West would probably be much better than ours in general. More minerals, more. This is an ancient seabed. If you dig a well, you pull up seashells.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Any other ecological changes that you've seen as you've changed from more conventional to holistic or regenerative practices?
Oh yeah, a lot. I mean, I've seen a lot of species come back. I'd forgotten what dung beetles look like. We worm cows multiple times per year, and the cow worm was really hard on dung beetle populations, and I just had forgotten about them.
Yeah.
And, I cut way back on the worm, or just about don't worm anymore. We will occasionally in a hardship case.
Yeah.
But the dung beetles came back. A lot of species came back. We see, different frogs, toads, lizards, just a lot of things, fireflies, a lot more ecological activity here now.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good indication. What is your definition of regenerative, Will?
Restarting the cycles of nature. The cycles of nature examples would be the carbon cycle, the water cycle, the mineral cycle, the microbial cycle, probably dozens of cycles that we don't even recognize. And industrial farming, particularly monocultural industrial farming, breaks those cycles of nature very intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And to be in a truly working in the direction of regeneration is restarting those cycles of nature.
Restarting the cycles of nature. I like that. I haven't heard it put quite that way, but that's a beautiful description, and I think should be the aim and the goal of all management and stewardship, as we call it. Can you speak to us a little bit about that term stewardship, what that means to you, how you've been able to embody that and exemplify that to not only yourself but to your community?
Well, I think we've forgotten that the land and the herd are permanent. We live in a society where assets are depreciated out over a year or 5 years or 20 years. But a herd in a farm are meant to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Many generations. This farm I'm sitting on, the herd I can see out that window right now, are perpetual. And we just don't have many things that are perpetual, but many forms of wealth that are perpetual.
So the land, and you even said the herd is perpetual because it can outlast you.
Individuals have lifespans, but the herd is perpetual.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. There's a question in the chat here, and I know you've got a meeting after this. You good for like 10 or 15 more minutes to do some Q&A?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll do that. Tom asks, Will, do you foresee doing any custom processing for other small regenerative and beginning farmers?
I don't intend to. If I didn't have enough of my own to slaughter, then I would economically have to do it. But I don't enjoy custom slaughter, mostly because I just don't enjoy talking to people that much. If somebody wants to kill one cow, you got to talk to them 6 times about it, and I just don't want to do
that. Very good. Yeah, if you were to transition an irrigated corn, soy farm to regenerative, what would be the big needle movers to start with? So transitioning from corn on soy to a regenerative, where do you start?
What I do when I've done that and a lot. And what I'll do is I'm fortunate here. We don't feed hay but about 8 or 10 weeks a year typically. And if I get a new piece of land during that 8 or 10 weeks, I'll take one of our bigger herds of cattle. Our winter calving herd's got 1,000 mamas in it, and I'll put them out by when I feed hay on the ground, wastefully, put it on the ground, let them eat it, walk in it, pee in it, manure in it, and really, I call it hay bombing. They waste a lot of hay, but they really jack up the organic matter and the microbial life of that land during that 10-week or 12-week period that we what about feeding the hay to them. And then I start that we do that would be in like Thanksgiving to 1st of February. Then when it warm up a little bit in March, April, I plant that with a mixture of warm season perennials and some warm season annuals in it. And then I have to see what happens after that. After that it becomes situational.
Yeah. But ultimately you'd want to transition to a perennial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I plant a lot of warm season stuff, cool season stuff to supplement or help out, but the land needs to be in perennials.
I don't know if you can speak to this question. What is the grazing potential of irrigated land when you transition from farming to grazing? He's got from bushels of corn per acre to stock days per acre.
It depends on where you are. I mean, I don't know. That's before I say how long is the string. If that has to be one thing if you were on the north end of the corn belt, and another thing if you were in the deep south.
Mm-hmm. Do you still get to do much farming yourself, or your energy is dedicated to management?
I spend about 1/3 of my day out in the pastures, looking and directing folks.
Mm-hmm.
1/3 of my day in this office doing emails and stuff I got to do.
Uh-huh.
Seems like about 1/3 of the day winds up having company guests, customers, whatever, somebody I got to talk to or show something.
Yeah. And is that the way you like it? Is that a nice balance for the way you're made?
I'd rather just see about the cows if I had my way. But I can hire somebody to do that, and I can't hire anybody to do this.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it makes sense. Are there any practices that are unique to you? Like, management styles, certain things that just you think I've got this dialed in and don't really know anybody else that's doing it.
I don't know that we're doing anything that's particularly unique. We figured out what works for us. We are figuring out what works for us here. I've been practicing this on this farm, the regenerative side for 25 years, and I'm still figuring it out. And when I die, my children still have stuff they got to figure out. We'll never know it all, and that's not. I don't consider that to be a failure.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I like that. Speaking of failures, we're pretty vulnerable in this group. Is there anything that you would say, I'm going to save you the time of trying this because it absolutely failed for me, and this learned from my tuition paid to the School of Hard Knocks?
Probably the biggest failure. I mean, I've got a bunch of failures in my life. Probably the biggest one I've had lately is I went into the pasture poultry business way too big. We'd gotten kind of drunk on success with the grass-fed beef business because of the timing. And I felt like, whoa, if we can do this good with beef, just think how good we can do with chicken. People eat more chicken than beef. So I spent $1 million, a little over $1 million building a processing plant for pasture poultry. And I couldn't sell enough chicken, not just chicken, chickens, ducks, geese, guineas, whatever. I couldn't sell enough poultry to operate the plant at the margin I needed for it. It just wouldn't work. And it was financially painful. But luckily our beef, pork, lamb business grew to the point that I outgrew my red meat plant. So we'll be able to utilize that $1 million+ plant I built for poultry for it. And I hope I still have some capacity to be in the poultry business. I can sell some pasture poultry, but I just can't sell as much as I thought I could.
Mm-hmm. Who are your primary customers? Is it direct to consumer, or do you sell a lot wholesale?
It's moving quickly to retail. I was purely a wholesale provider for the first 10 years, more than that, 10, 15 years I was in business. Publix, Kroger, Whole Foods, some food service companies. Last year we sold more online. We got an online store, order fulfillment center. I don't know if I said that or not, but we got one.
Okay.
We sold more product direct to consumers online than we did to our wholesale customers.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that trend continuing. I do not like shipping FedEx and UPS, and that's the only way I got to do it. So I'm looking for something better on that side of it. Nothing wrong with FedEx and UPS, but they were not designed for meat. They were designed for books and clothes and non-perishables.
Sure.
And I need a better way of getting it delivered.
What's the common weak link in a direct to consumer business, Will? Is it marketing? Is it production? Is it fulfillment? What do you see that's like the thing that people fall short on?
Probably, I guess it falls under order fulfillment, but you can sell all the tenderloins you can produce, and you can sell them for a lot. But you got to find a place to go with all that ground beef.
Yeah.
And that'll break you. There's been a lot of people that went broke raising cows and butchering them and selling the middle meats and freezing everything else. And they wake up one morning and can't pay the bills. They may have $1 million or $2 million or $3 million worth of inventory, but they can't pay the bills.
Yeah. How have you been able to mitigate that?
We started out, as I told you, early in with some big grocery companies and built up a real good ground beef business, and we maintained that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty key. Pretty key.
You can make ground beef out of anything, but you can't make a tenderloin out of anything except a tenderloin.
That's right. Right. Yeah. Well, very good. Well, in just the couple minutes that we have left here, Will, are there any kind of parting thoughts that you have? Anything that you'd like to share with this audience? And again, it goes out on the podcast channels and things. So largely producers from throughout the United States, North, South America, but we have some people from Australia and even Africa that have tuned into these before. So this is
I don't know that I got any closing thoughts. I enjoyed being with y'all. Like I saw, I got a little cold. I'm sort of sniffly. I apologize for that. But I'm told that my accent's a little bit southern, so hopefully between the stopped up nose and a little on the southern side, maybe you understood some of what I said. I hope you did.
Yeah, we did. I think the message came through loud and clear. I had to cut my video there for a minute because our internet is not ideal here on this stormy day. But we appreciate you, Will. We're grateful that you're doing what you're doing, the example that you're setting for many within our industry. And if you guys would go ahead and just share your appreciation to Will in the chat for his time, and we hope that you'll take the opportunity to go and visit him. That is on my bucket list of things to do. I've looked at some of the classes there, and the timing has not worked out. I ended up going and getting my 10-day certification in California with the Savory Institute. I really wanted to go to yours though, and appreciate the good work that you were doing, Will.
Thank y'all for having me on. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed talking to y'all. Hope you come see us.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. We'll wrap this up here. Last week we had a wonderful 2-day, we called it the Profitable Steward event. If you'd like access to those recordings, we're going to go ahead and send out the link. It's going to be the same link that you registered on. That will give you the 2 days of recordings. You can go back and review that and take advantage of that opportunity. It's great to be able to join together to build a community of committed stewards, and we're thankful for those that are throughout the world that are joining this community. And so we pray for your success, and we hope to see you on the next one, which actually we accommodated Will's schedule. We were able to jump on here on a different day than normal. Tomorrow we're going to be back on with Eunice Williams. Did you know Bud and Eunice by chance, Will?
His daughter and her husband have been here before.
Tina and Richard. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Eunice is going to be our guest for the regularly scheduled webinar, which is tomorrow evening. So if you haven't registered for that, just go check your email. It's probably in there. If you need to reach out on the text, and we'll get you the link. But so with that, blessings to all, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Thank you again, Will.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.